Has someone online described you or themselves as a left libertarian? The chances are, a libertarian socialist, I should say, that they've been taking the political compass test. Welcome to episode 101 of the Scottish Libertarian podcast, Scottish Liberty podcast. Don't even know the name of my own damn podcast. With me, Antony Sammeroff.
And, of course, the ravishing Tom Laird.
Very ravishing indeed. Today, we're going to talk about the political compass test, the one that you will find all over the internet. People use it to identify where they are
on the political spectrum.
Not just the left-right spectrum, as we've been taught to oversimplify, but the left, right, up, down, the authoritarian versus libertarian axis. Now, if I can remember,
axis of evil.
The axis of evil. I have got some problems with the political compass test. In fact, I've got a lot of problems with the political compass test, and we're going to explore.
It's all over the map.
It's all over the map. Right now, in a minute, you're going to see our screen. Look how it goes into infinity. Presents every infinity. Those of you who are listening on iTunes don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Looks like some sort of fucking 70s
now you'll
psychedelia.
Be able to see. So I better hide all my porn.
Don't be watching this if you're on the LSD.
Right. We're going to go through the political compass test and talk about why it's complete nonsense. Let's just start from the beginning.
Well, I don't know about complete nonsense. Well, you're going to postulate it's complete nonsense. I don't know. I've never actually looked. I don't think I've actually sat in this test before, so this is going to be interesting for me.
I would say, I think that the test itself...
Let me get philosophical.
Complete nonsense. They can't actually see you put that pipe in your mouth, I'm afraid.
I'm still getting philosophical.
We're screen sharing. The thing is, the questions themselves promote a certain bias or prejudice. If you look at this question here, the first question, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Now, first of all, that presents a false dichotomy that it can't serve both. And also, it's like the language it's in. Who wants to say, yes, I want economic globalization to serve transnational corporations? Like, fuck humanity. Like, transnational corporations are where
why are transnational corporations not part of humanity?
Indeed.
Right? Humanity is all sorts of things, all sorts of evils, all sorts of negative things are part of humanity. And who do they think are? Well, maybe they think the transnational corporations are run by David Icke's lizards,
right?
Because then it would be a dichotomy because it wouldn't be run by human beings.
Right.
But as far as I know, most transnational corporations are run by human beings,
and the people working in those corporations are human beings,
and the people sometimes who benefit from those corporations are human beings.
The people who buy their cheap products, the people who benefit because transnational corporations have got economies of scale. They don't need to a lot of their costs are split over many branches. They're able to provide a cheaper product oftentimes, which who benefits from cheaper goods if not humanity? The question itself presents a left-wing bias because it presents the idea that the interests of humanity and the interests of transnational corporations are necessarily at odds with each other. Now, sometimes they might be, but they're certainly not necessarily at odds with each other.
I don't understand the discrepancy really between agree and strongly agree. I mean, either you agree or you don't, I reckon. But anyway.
So okay, I will support. I'd always support.
I really agree that rape is wrong.
I only moderately agree with that. So anyway, what does that mean, right? The interests of humanity. Does humanity have interests? Like only individuals have interests. Yeah. There's no such thing as a national interest or a group interest, because what's good for one person is necessarily sometimes good for another person, sometimes not good. I mean, if we fancy the same girl and I get them, that's not so good for you, but it's good for me and the girl. Well, you might say it's good for you, Antony, but it's definitely not good for the girl because I'm a much better lover than you are. and that may or may not be true. We've never put it to the test so far. So,
if there's any lovely ladies out there who'd like to put that theory to the test, it will be under controlled conditions, obviously. Let us know.
Right. So I'm not got so much of a problem with this one. I'd always support my country, whether it's right or wrong. I do think that is a clear left-right split. If some people consider themselves on the right and want to tell us why that's wrong, because I think that's kind of like, but the thing is, you might say, you might not want to disagree or agree with that question at all. Like, I guess I guess is it a dichotomy?
Yeah, I think so. I think
that's a left-right split.
I would say the only person who would answer agree to that would be somebody who's on the extreme right.
Yeah. Well, then, no, that would be strongly agree. So the question, you'd want to probably say something like something less biased, like I think that.
But how could you strongly agree? I always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. That's a pretty strong statement. So how could you either agree or strongly agree?
Well, I see that all the time. Like, it's the cause. It doesn't not necessarily be your country, but it's the cause. Like, you know, left-wing intellectuals were very they didn't want to accept the crimes of the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union was a force. I see it all the time with Zionists. It's like they don't want to accept that. They're not interested. They don't want the access to the information of any crimes that, and it's, you see the same with sort of feminism, where it's like, oh no, feminism is an unadulterated good, and if there's bad feminists, well, that's not real feminism, even if it's the leaders of the movement, even if it's major thinkers in the movement that say dodgy things. And you find the same thing with this my nation, right or wrong. Some people do have that mentality, which is the tribe is more important than the truth, and criticizing, say, America for the war in Iraq or Afghanistan. I think that's what it's trying to capture.
Okay, but so do we agree then that at least maybe that question is pretty parsing?
Yeah, I think that's fairly. I think that one's fair. I think it could probably be put better. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it.
Why are we ticking strongly agree though?
Because I need to answer the quiz to go on to the next page.
Yeah, I know, but why don't we answer it?
Oh, because we're going to be here all night if we do.
But answer it.
It's a long quiz.
Honestly.
Okay, so economic globalization, if it's inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than it. I can't answer that question because the question itself is wrong.
Okay, so why say strongly agree?
Because
you can't strongly disagree either.
Because I can't go on to the next
page. Doesn't let
because I can't go on to the next page of questions unless I answer all the questions, dummy.
No, I get that, but it's just right. Okay, carry on.
I was just putting them in arbitrarily. Strongly disagree. Okay, no one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Yeah, I kind of strongly agree, but you see what they're kind of like. I don't know if that's biased, but I feel like it's the questions themselves give a sense that right-wingers are parochial.
Okay, but here's the thing on that question as well. No one chooses a country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Proud of what? Proud of the country or proud of your birth? Right, I mean, it's like you can still be...
It just means I'm proud to be Scottish or proud to be, like...
Yeah, okay, we get that.
So you're taking credit for other people's work. Once...
it's not foolish to be proud of it. It's not foolish to be proud of your country.
Why? Well, people on the left will argue that it is, because how can you be proud of something you didn't achieve? They'll say, I was born on a piece of land because if I wasn't, I would have drowned.
Well, surely you can take pride in somebody else's achievements.
Well, maybe you should get some achievements.
But not personal pride, but you just go...
There was a great...
I mean, you'd be proud of your son or daughter because suppose you achieved your son or your daughter. Well, right, carry on, crack on.
Yeah, but I guess, but it is a political question. Okay. Our race has many superior qualities compared to other races. So again, I'm not saying that this is fun.
Disagree.
I'm just going to put disagree in, right. Okay, right? But like, you understand that certain people will be remiss to admit that, or I feel like I don't know if this question is biased, but I feel like the questions in general paint right-wingers as parochial because of their uncharitable,
yeah,
their uncharitable word choice. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay, see what I mean? Who's going to say? Who's going to say that? Who's going like?
I think a lot of people would say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think people on the left would even say that.
I feel like the quiz itself promotes a left-wing bias because most people wouldn't want to agree to these questions. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Well, it's kind of like the other question, like my country is always right. I mean, who's going to say it? Never. It's never justified to defy international law. What if international law says put a June in oven?
Yeah.
There is a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Right? I mean, I don't know if it puts you in the left or right to agree with that. Worrying fusion.
Yeah, I disagree. Right, but
anyway. People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and you're probably a right, libertarian.
Yeah.
I would say, and yet even you agree that people are divided more by class than nationality. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. That question just boggles my mind. I don't want anyone to control inflation. I don't want anyone to control unemployment. So the question is wrong.
It also suggests that
it's a dichotomy.
It also suggests that you can control inflation.
Right. It's like the word regulation is a misnomer. It's actually begging the question because regulation suggests that it's actually that the law you pass is actually going to regularize something.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got no evidence that it's going to do that. It may have the opposite effect.
Okay, who devised this?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. But this is the one that this is the first one that comes up. So anyway, what if I disagree with the question itself? Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Maybe I want you to stop bloody well trying to control things. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Now, again, what exactly does this mean? This question assumes a left-wing bias. No one's going to say, yes, corporations can be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment. No one's going to say that. However, they may have incentives to protect the environment. They might not want to, they might not want to damage the price of their the value of their forest by clear cutting it. They might want to preserve the long-term health of the forest. But what does a regulation mean? Typically, when people say regulations, they mean a complex string of regulations. They don't just mean the common
government
law.
Regulation.
Yeah, there's regulation in the market.
Yeah.
The company that makes its resources go the furthest, that's the most environmentally friendly with its resources by stretching them the furthest, is going to make a bigger profit than a company that's wasteful with resources. That's a form of non-government regulation. They'll be able to buy those resources. That regulates. They'll be able to buy up those resources for more money. They'll buy up those resources because they know how to use them efficiently. So the quiz itself presents a left-wing bias. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Okay, I don't particularly have a problem with that question. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Okay, well, people have an intuition that that's true. Obviously, as free marketeers, we could say, isn't it fucking fantastic that you can get that it can be sent to places that used to have droughts. Never mind. It's the wealth created by capitalism that created a situation where you can actually get bottled water that you can take to somewhere where there might not be any fresh water. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Okay, you see a kind of left-right split there. It's regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Obviously, they're going to put you in the left if you agree with that. But who created the banking system? Was it the free market? No, it was the government. So I'll agree. It's annoying that many people
agree with that.
Yeah, like Dave Rubin, I agree that it's regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. But who created that? The implication is that that is a feature of capitalism, and therefore you're on the left. If you agree with that,
yeah,
no, it's the government created the rigged game board. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Now, I don't know where this will put you on the political spectrum, but I have to say, if they're telling you that if you agree with protectionism, you're on the left, that's a fucking whole load of bullshit. The right have always been in favor of protectionism because foreign people taking our jobs, and the left have always been in favor of protectionism because we are exploiting people abroad by buying their cheap goods, not giving them a leg up. The only social responsibility of a company should be deliver a profit to its shareholders. Now, can you see why? I mean, that question itself presents a left-wing bias. Who's going to say that? Who's going to say, I guess the only social responsibility of a company is, I mean, Milton Friedman kind of said it, but he wasn't saying that they should be allowed to violate the law. And there are...
Well, why would they have a social... Right, okay, cut out social responsibility. Cut out the word social. The only responsibility of a company should be to deliver profit to its shareholders.
Yeah, but it misses the important point by providing a good... By providing a good or service that people voluntarily want to exchange.
Good or service. Is that correct?
Product or service.
Oh, sorry, a better product or service. Okay.
No, I didn't mean good. I meant good as in product.
Right. Okay.
You fucking idiot. Right. It misses the important ingredient, which is that company make profit. Or make a loss based on their ability to deliver products or services that people want to part with their scarce resources to attain. That in itself is fulfilling a social good.
Okay.
It's not an easy thing to do. There's like millions, like literally billions of products that people can buy.
Yeah.
So in order to deliver a product that people actually want to part voluntarily with their limited resources is a social good.
Okay.
And the question itself does not cover that.
Get it, yeah.
And this is why.
Use another fucker. Okay, the rich are too highly taxed.
According to what?
How about everybody's too highly taxed? If they tax you at all, you're too highly taxed because as I was saying, the rich are right. As I was saying, the rich are too disproportionately stolen from. Right?
Yeah.
There's too many rich people being robbed. No, like nobody should be robbed, right? So again, I don't know who this question is. The rich are too highly taxed. I guess some people on the right would say that's true if they didn't think about the question. Certainly many people on the left would automatically disagree with that.
No, they'd say that the rich are too highly taxed.
So they disagree with that statement. The rich are too highly taxed.
Yeah. Even though, by the way, I should point out in this country, something like 24.2% of taxes are paid by the top 1% of earners.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, the left don't actually understand the benefit of rich people investing in companies.
Yeah.
This is a serious problem. They think, they're just keeping it under a mattress. Actually, capital investment abroad is what pushes the price of goods and services down. So it actually benefits the poor. But
let's suppose for a moment they were keeping it under their mattress, wiping their ass with $50 bills and lighting big cigars with $100 bills, whatever. Surely that puts the value. If it provided you don't print fiat money, more money.
Well, they're going to do that anyway.
Surely, if you just. That would put any money that was left in circulation, any money at all, would be automatically worth more.
Exactly. So it's supply and demand. If you withhold spending, the price of the money that is being spent becomes worth more. The price of goods and services goes down, which incentivizes people who are hoarding to go out and, oh, look, things are really cheap.
I suppose you would just break a pound down back into half pennies again, and quarter pennies. And
it's a self-correcting mechanism. It's got incentives, right? And on a free market, if people save more, then the price of borrowing goes down. So more people borrow, and then more people spend more. It's got a self-correcting mechanism. So those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Now, you want to be a heartless bastard to answer yes to this question the way it's formulated. The ability to pay should have access. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. What they miss out, what they neglect to mention, is supposing this motherfucker invents a new operation, right? And he's the only one in the world that can do it. So he says, I can only perform this operation 10 times a year, and it goes to the highest bidder. Okay, Mr. Moneybags needs this operation and is willing to spend £20 million for it, more than anyone else. That brings the income into the hospital in order to train more people to do the operation. So in the long term, you're helping more people, right? If you allow the people with the most capacity to pay for healthcare to bid up the prices of services and get in there first, you're generating the income in the hospital to train more specialists to cater to more people quicker, and over time the price of that procedure will go down. It's only because something's in short supply that people would be able to bid it up in the first place.
Right.
Now, if you didn't know that, which I have to say, like, less than 1% of people in this country, never mind worldwide, would even think of. Am I right? It's a pretty complex economic point. You're going to look like a heartless bastard for agreeing that those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. But if you're in the know, then you can see why it makes sense. So this kind of stuff pisses me off. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Okay, I'm a libertarian. I agree. I don't think you should be able to commit fraud.
That's basically consumer fraud.
Who disagrees with that? Are they going to put you on the right if you disagree with that? Are you a bad person automatically? The genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predatory multinationals to create monopolies. Okay, this pisses me off again. I disagree because monopolies are created by the government. In fact, the original meaning of the word monopoly was that the government had allowed a company or corporation to do that.
You're granted the monopoly.
And I know people don't know this, right? But the government is a monopoly. Shock horror. So
yeah, it's a monopoly on forced violence, guns. Yeah. Well, in the UK it does anyway. A good example of that government created monopoly or a system monopoly would be, because a lot of leftists bring this up. Oh, the British East India Company,
the one that was backed up by
the one that had a royal charter, which is basically a government granting the monopoly of that company to also have its own private army, backed up by the government. And when it ran into trouble in India and so forth, the government backed it up. So instead of saying, no, do you know what? You're a private company. Make your own trade deals. Sort it out. If you've got a problem with the Chinese, sort it out yourselves by negotiation. The East India Company is a good example of a government-assisted, government-created monopoly.
The freer the market, the freer the people. Well, I've got strong. Do you think that do you think that's a biased question, or do you think? Well, they're going to put you on the right if you say strongly agree, and they're going to put you on the left if you say
disagree. Yeah,
I think.
So it's hard to. Yeah. Okay.
Have you got anything more to say that?
No. Okay.
Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Okay. Do you see a problem with that question?
Let me give you a sort of immediate reaction to that. My immediate reaction would be strongly agree. Okay. However, when you look at it again, you've got abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Okay. In whose backyard? I think it should always be illegal in my community that I choose to live in and I choose to contract with. However, in somebody else's community that's got nothing to do with me, that have different values, then I guess as long as they're not imposing their view on me, they're allowed to do it, you know? So I think for a true libertarian or an ANCAP, that's a hard question to say that you agree with. Even if you personally agree that abortion is murder, which I think it is, then it's still a different question to say whether it should always be illegal. That gives government the constant ability to decide whether or not it should or should not be legal, whereas I think it should be down to individual communities.
Let's see if you've got any comments.
It's not new. The questions aren't nuanced enough.
I agree. And
it's maybe deliberately designed.
Do you agree that it has a left-wing bias?
I agree with that so far. I would think.
Aldum says, I don't believe in political encompass tests which don't have ANCAP compatible answers.
Okay, yeah.
Adam Smasher, my two favourite baldies. This test must be the 3.5 card of allowable opinion Tom Woods talks about. Awesome subject matter, gentlemen, says Clay Davis. I'm glad that you like it. Aldum, you should disagree because it's not the government who should be doing that. Well, thanks for being so fucking specific.
All libertarians are right. Does that mean we're right in what we say, or we're just right because we're on the right of the spectrum? What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
Are you being deliberately vague? Are you being coy?
Was that a joke? All
do not be coy with me, sir.
All authorities should be questioned. So I suppose if you fucking say you agree with that, you're on the left, and if you disagree with that, you're on the right. Now, in my presentation, when you didn't bother to show up, the psychology of statism, I talked about the right's irrational love of authority and the left's overzealous hatred of authority.
That's bullshit.
I said, how, wait a second.
How could you say that the left have an overzealous hatred of authority?
Well,
the most authoritarian regimes in the world have been leftists.
Okay.
Right? You know, so they don't like the authorities as they perceive it in this country because it represents a system they don't like. Yeah, the man.
The system, man. Fuck the system, man.
Yeah, it's the system. It's not the authority.
Oh no, all authorities should be questioned except for that of Stalin.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wasn't thinking about it in those terms, but you're right.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say, what I mean to add is that
academia.
It's not nuanced enough for a libertarian because the point is, yeah, some authority is illegitimate. And some authority is legitimate. Like, see if you can, if we say this guy's a authority on biology,
yeah,
we understand he knows more on biology than most people. Like, he's earned that authority.
yeah. Welcome back. We're back on.
Hi. Sorry about
Hey,
that.
sorry about that.
My computer
forgive us again. Once again, our professionalism knows no bounds.
So let's see where we were. I was just talking about basically, if this guy is an authority on biology, you understand that he knows more about biology than anyone else. He has earned his authority. Whereas the problem with state power is, I mean, you earn your so-called authority by ballot, don't you? You don't actually have to demonstrate yourself to have good leadership. Well, you might if you define good leadership narrowly, but I mean, it's not based on competence. It's based on your ability to manipulate people to vote for you, and also it's based upon the point of a gun. You're not an authority. A good leader. People follow them because they see that they get more, that it's in their self-interest. And we do know how much the right, some of them go crazy if you fucking burn a flag or something like that, you know.
Yeah,
so,
you can burn people and books, but not flags. Dudes, you would think, you know, especially for your cat, you got to buy it to burn it,
right?
Yeah. So,
unless you,
I tell you what, I don't know who made flags during the Third Reich, man, but they fucking made a packet, didn't they? They really did. I reckon the flag makers were behind the Second World War. It's probably the Jews.
Well, the Jews were behind everything. If you spend long enough on the internet. Now, let's see if we can share our screen again. So, right, we're off.
Wait, and we have it back.
Let me just make sure that this is actually working. Present to everyone. There we go. Now,
presenting.
We have a
representing.
What is wrong with you? Seriously, do you see what I have to put up with in order to do this show? This guy, man. This fucking guy.
This guy.
Why does everything always come back down to identity politics with you?
I'm a closet alt-writer.
I thought we were trying to get away from this stuff.
Who is? Do we have to go through this horse shit again?
Yeah, unfortunately. So guys at home, like, start sending each other jokes or something like that, because
it's a sad reflection of society that we can't fucking get this right. Hang on a minute, you're way ahead.
No. This is stuff we've already done. We were on page 3. Page 3 of 6 as well, I should add. So
we're on page 3. Where's the bird with the big boobies?
I know. I saw that one coming a mile off. Right. Let's see. Have we got any more comments?
If anybody's wondering,
all libertarians are right regarding the fraud thing. Too much questions on this test are far too vague. I agree. We
agree with that. Right. In case somebody's wondering, I don't actually smoke this pipe.
Make sure we're back. Well, they can't see you.
No, they can now.
No, because I've shared screens again.
Yeah, but they've seen me with the pipe already.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so I don't actually smoke the
pipe.
An
eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This is where we are. That really depends on the circumstances.
Well, first of all, right, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. As far as I understand that quote biblically, it's not about revenge. It's about what do you call it when you get compensation? But it's like
oh, right, okay. So
it's about working out. It's about, like, you know, if you're in a disagreement with somebody, if they owe you something out, if somebody's caused you harm, it's an eye for an eye. It has to be. Right. The point of that statement is to show it has to be equitable. Right. If somebody,
it's not to say that if you punch someone, then they deserve to get punched back.
No, it's more about civil forfeiture and kind of like, you know, and how you make agreements about compensation.
Okay, interesting. So, but that is to say that if you're hungry for vengeance, as Tam is, that you're some kind of right winger,
screaming for vengeance, as Rob Halford was
of
Judas Priest.
There you go. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any threats or theaters or museums. Theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis.
strongly agree.
And yet you'll find that conservatives are all up for the opera,
yeah.
all up for huge subsidies to the opera. I believe 80% of the funds that go to the Scottish Opera are taxpayer. Schools should not make, but that's to civilized people.
Yeah.
Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. How's that got anything to do with?
Well, are they talking about public schools? I strongly agree.
But that's the thing. This is the point. The questions are too vague. Yeah. Where does that put you on the political spectrum? Does that put you left or right?
Well, considering that one of the famous works on this was by Ivan Illich, called Deschooling Society, he would probably strongly agree, and yet he was quite Marxist.
Yeah, he was a Marxist, but in that period, a lot of people thought that basically if you had grievances with society, you were automatically on the left. I despair. I hope you guys are still on a laptop at this rate. It's overheating. It's quite old. So, if you want to donate to Scottish Liberty Podcast, PayPal.
So that this shit show doesn't have to continue.
I mean, we do such a good show. We're just not that technical. Okay, so PayPal to frequency528@hotmail.co.uk. Okay.
So you kind of get the gist of what we're driving at with this test. So because if we go out again, then that'll be probably the end of the show. We're not going to muck about for much longer because we've all got lives to lead,
including you guys at home. As much as I would like to think that your only thing,
your entire raison d'etre was to follow the Scottish Liberty Podcast, which, as raison d'etres go, it's pretty much up there with the best of them.
It is. As much as we'd like to think that's all you have going on in your life, we realize that you too tire of technical difficulties. So Adam Smasher was saying he had a disagreement with you, I guess.
Me?
Yeah, because you said
Adam Smasher can go fuck himself.
don't be careful what you say. He's our #1 fan.
Was he? Okay.
He says
he can go fuck himself nicely. He can pleasure. He can go pleasure himself.
He could go reproduce with himself. He said, should slavery be allowed in other communities if they think it's okay? That's his response.
Well, it kind of is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there is other communities in the world that do have slavery.
Like, but is it okay?
No, I don't think abortion's okay. Yeah,
but you're just not willing to militarily.
I don't think I'm willing to use violence against my neighbours to stop it. That's the only thing.
Are you?
I don't know that. However, I could make a case that if government exists at all, one of its jobs is to protect the rights of the individual.
Why don't you just go back and listen to our libertarian abortion debate? That is an episode of the show.
Yeah, try that one.
Okay. All people have rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people keep to their own kind. What the fuck, man? I guess that's an alt-righty type
thing.
It is. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Right, okay. How's that a left-right thing? Although I do admit that
I don't think it's a
the UK Independence Party did once have introduced corporal punishment in schools, reintroduced corporal punishment in schools in their manifesto, and they're a right-wing party.
It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents.
How's that left-right?
It's natural.
Libertarian.
I think a better question would have been: is it right for children to keep some parents from their secrets?
Well, it depends on the parents.
Yeah, exactly. But it would again be problematic, but it'd be a better question than that.
Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offence. Okay, I think it's fairly benign. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. Now, who fucking believes that? People with
clearly left libertarians.
No, I think that's meant to be if you're in the right.
Yeah.
People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Right? Some people think that, but who's going to...
Again, it's not a left-right thing. Both...
Yeah, actually, there's lots of eugenics in the left right up until the beginning of the 20th century.
Sweden was big on eugenics, still are.
But the left tend to be against it today, so you could say that the left-right is...
Are they? I don't think that's true. I reckon abortion's a form of eugenics.
Okay, well, we could go down the rabbit hole of arguing how the single mother welfare state is a transfer of wealth from middle-class families that can't afford to have more children to whatever. Do you know what I mean? You could construe that as some kind of... Anyway. But
the most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline.
Yeah. But is that
I guess more people on the right would say yes to that than
there are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures.
That's a very lefty statement, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not saying that all of the...
Did you say you agreed with that?
No, I'm just trying to fill in the quiz so that we can get to the end of it. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. When you're
who's society?
Who is society? There is no society. There are only individuals and families, as Margaret Thatcher reminded us. When you're troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. That's that's the kind of thing that you think. But I don't see how that's a libertarian authoritarian. Why does it keep on doing that?
It hates you.
First generations immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I guess that's meant to be a right-wing position.
I disagree. You're deliberately trying to fuck this test up, aren't you?
I'm not filling in the test. I don't know how much more clear I can make that to you.
But you are filling it in. You're just not doing it in any consistent way.
No. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately for the good of all of us. I mean,
I don't see how it's a left right. I don't even know anybody who would agree with that statement.
Okay. No
left or right.
broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Well, obviously, as libertarians, we strongly agree with that. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Now, that's a very Bush-era thing to say, but I'm guessing they put you on. I'm guessing they put you on the left for it, or they make you libertarian. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments and delay progress in a democratic political system. I guess that's going to put you on the authoritarian axis. Well, I mean, if you agree with that.
It depends. You might not morally agree with it. You might agree with the mechanics of it.
Right. Okay.
Right. You go, well, yeah, that's true. It is an advantage of a one-party state.
That's quite good. Factually, it's an advantage, but that doesn't mean that
morally.
That's a good point, actually. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need worry. That's kind of like, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear.
They don't tell you a wrongdoer is. A wrongdoer might be somebody who goes to church.
The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Okay, I guess that's kind of in a right-left divide. I would
strongly agree on that.
I disagree, but not strongly. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. This is kind of more the kind of authoritarian axis. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything should be considered art at all. I don't get how this makes you a right-winger.
I would guess that more people on the right would agree with that statement.
Oh, well, it looks like I'm a right-winger. It's a waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's so vague that it's like, well, I might think that most criminals...
What kind of criminal are they talking about?
Yeah, it's so vague.
Some criminals.
The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and artist. I guess that puts you on the right if you believe that. But yeah, actually, to what? More important to what ends? More important to culture, more important to society, more important to escaping people from poverty? It's too vague.
Well, I guess the writer only writes because some fucker invented a pencil and makes it in his factory.
Some business person in manufacturing. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Well, that sounds quite...
Damn straight.
I strongly agree that. Sounds quite like Hitler. He was big on that.
Yeah. Kinderkirche Kuche.
Multinational corporations are unethically exploiting the plant
genetic resources of developing countries. I think I'm talking about Monsanto there and the Terminator gene. You could, well, maybe they are factually. I don't know whether or not you agree that they should is another fucking thing, you know. So
making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Well, what fucking establishment?
Yeah.
In what country? And under what circumstances? I tire. I'm sure you guys at home are tiring too.
Well,
let's see what we've got here.
Could you be more specific?
Should slavery... Right. Your stream got zucked. We know that. The globalists can't handle the bans. Ethno-state, says opinionated Scotsman. Spanking is authoritarian, libertarian, I think. Tom's point on the left is still eugenicist. They just have different, more marketable rhetoric now. Okay.
Yeah, good point.
If anything, they must be dysgenicists. Recompense is the world you're looking for. Recompense.
All right, when he was talking about civil recompense, whatever, that word he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Right, okay, I guess if you agree with that.
Yeah.
But why? I mean...
We've been through this before.
We'll have to do it on the show.
We have to do crime and punishment.
Yeah.
We have to do that.
Not the Dostoevsky book, although we're both fans of it.
Yeah, we might draw on some of his...
Astrology accurately explains many things. Now, I don't understand why this has any place in the political compass test.
Neither do I. However, I have to point out that Mr. Sammeroff, Pan Sammeroff, believes that astrology
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
He's a big believer in astrology.
If I was to fill out...
He loves all that crystals and shit. If I was to fucking
fill out the quiz,
Mind, bollocks and spirit.
I'd put myself down as disagreeing with that. You cannot be moral without being religious.
He believes in all that airy-fairy stuff, unlike me, who actually believes the real thing, like carpenters coming to life and healing people.
Yeah, the zombie Jew son of God coming back to life and skipping.
You cannot be moral without being religious. Got to disagree, but again, I don't see what that's got to do with left,
because
right.
they're going to put you on the right if you believe that you have to be religious to be moral. Charity is better than social security, is, I mean, sort of helping the genuinely disadvantaged.
I agree with that.
I agree, but also, what about fucking creating wealth?
Some people are naturally unlucky. Again, who I disagree.
Does that put you in the,
yeah, who?
What's it got to do with your left or right or authoritarian or libertarian?
No clue.
It is important that my child's school instills religious values.
Again, why would that be a right left? There's a lot of people on the right who don't want religious education in schools.
Socialist, religious,
Christians.
Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Well,
usually immoral.
I'm like,
what do you mean usually immoral? I'm trying to imagine some situation where you could have sex outside of marriage and it's not immoral.
What if someone comes up to you and says, "I'm going to shoot this baby unless you fuck this girl"?
Okay,
that's an exception.
If anybody's ever heard of that, such a situation arising, let us know.
Right. Well, all I'm going to say is that if
I'm going to shoot a baby if you don't have sex with me. Do you know what? The way things are going in my life, I might actually have to use that one. Stop stealing my moves. Okay, I go for it.
Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Well, guess I'm an immoralist then. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Should gays be able to adopt children? They might be better parents.
Who's doing the adopting? Who's giving the child over? You know, it's a lot of.
They might be better parents than a lot of fucking straight parents.
Can I just say, I've seen some people's girlfriends, and I think wives, and sex within marriage can be sometimes immoral as well. Right, so
pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for adult population. Well, good luck fucking banning that.
I think it should be compulsory.
I do know a alt-rightist who believes that pornography should be banned. Okay. Right, strongly agree. So we're strongly for porn.
What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Yeah, I can agree. There's that old quip, you know, that conservatives believe in small government, just small enough to get inside your bedroom.
Right,
yeah.
That's P.J. O'Rourke, isn't it?
I think it was.
The warmonger. Anyway, he's pretty funny.
Is he a warmonger?
Yes, he's too warmongery. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Do you know what?
But you know what? The communists were really, especially in the Soviet Union, and I think China's possibly the same. In fact, many communist and socialist leaders were anti-homosexual.
Didn't Che Guevara execute gays?
Che Guevara was
that being gay is notoriously illegal in Israel, isn't it?
He was notorious for his poof hating.
Right. So no one can feel naturally homosexual. Well, do you know what? Homosexuality exists.
How can you say what somebody feels?
Yeah, it exists even in the animal kingdom. Homosexuality. So
yeah, but they don't feel homosexual. They just do it.
They just do it.
They don't realize
you make gay. Me feel like I'm a natural homosexual.
Okay. We try, as you know, every show we do have something to offend everyone. Yeah. So
these days, openness about sex has gone too far. Well, I know someone who definitely believes that's true. Not only do they believe that's true, they think it's partially because of Jewish sitcom writers.
Yeah.
Well,
certainly when I tell people at dinner parties about my predilection for goats, they find that takes things a bit too far.
He's taking that too far. Anyway, so
ruins a dinner party.
Anyway,
I can tell you.
Now
I don't get invited to any anymore.
I don't know. I just answered the questions arbitrarily, but we were some.
Oh, we finished.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Okay. So anyway, let's see what this has to say. We recognize that this is essentially an economic line. The left-right's an economic line, according to them. Oh, yes, because right-wingers are so free market and so pro-capitalism. I mean,
that ultimate free marketeer, General Pinochet.
What hello. This it's like you
just because Friedman flew down there and gave him a few pointers and he took them on board.
Just because conservatives hate the left doesn't mean they're for free markets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got no fucking cohesive political ideology. They're just a collection of people who don't like. They've allowed themselves to be defined by what they're not. Both in economic, anyway. So you get the point. The quiz.
So where did we end up, dude?
Well, I didn't
with those answers. I know, but just fucking indulge me.
Indulge you.
Where did we end up?
We were literally Hitler.
There you go.
We're slightly libertarian. Slightly to the right. And
right, libertarian. I think that's how I ended up when I'd done a similar thing to this on the Neil Burt's website. Neil, when he was a radio DJ. That's how I ended it. It was right libertarian. And I kept doing it again. I think I'd done it about 3 times going, that can't be fucking right. I'm not a libertarian. I didn't know what a libertarian was at the time. It just sounded too much like a liberal. Yeah. It just didn't sound sounded too much like liberal to me. And I only knew the modern sense of liberal. I didn't know the classic sense of liberal. So I kept doing the test and I was ready to fucking kill somebody.
Well, look,
which is, I'm sure a few of you are by now.
I will say that I don't believe that libertarian socialism exists. Yeah. I think to say that you're a libertarian socialist is to say that you're a banana octopus, right? The only reason why they coined the term libertarian socialist is because they wanted to separate themselves from Mao and Stalin and say, no, we're not that kind of socialist. We're this other thing that exists in our imagination that defies the laws of economics.
Okay. Can you
However,
okay.
What were you going to say?
Could you be a left liberal if you didn't believe in the use of force to redistribute wealth?
I guess, yeah, because, well, what I was going to say was, even though I don't believe there's such a thing as a libertarian socialist, I do accept that within libertarianism, there's a left-right libertarian distinction, because you get people like, I don't want to say their names because they're fucking repugnant, but like, you guys know who I'm talking about, you know, there's some left libertarian economists that are a bit social justice warrior-y and like to take pops at other libertarians. I don't even want to promote them by naming names, but I know they exist.
Yeah.
And they're left libertarians.
Their initials would be Jeffrey Tucker.
Well, no, wait, I like Jeffrey Tucker, but he has gone off the deep end. Well, should I say, like, people like Steve Horowitz, basically.
Oh.
I mentioned his name. He's a terrible human being. And actually, he's written a couple of really good articles. That's the annoying thing. But the people who accept a big tent definition of libertarianism and say, they might say, oh, to be a libertarian, you should believe in feminism or some other flavor of the month. Anyway. I just wanted to say that I think the quiz...
says gamos. What does that mean? Gamos?
Homosexuality.
Gamos.
I guess...
Explain, sir. An opinionated Scotsman just says homosexuality. And it's still a death sentence in some part of the Middle East and Africa. Well, it was a death sentence here when we had AIDS.
Whoa. Adam Slasher says, I basically agree with Laird that you can't have a monolithic violent force to control disparate cultures. It's just an interesting subject. I am in favor of self-determination of peoples and subversion. Subversion of what exactly?
Not perversion, subversion.
Opinionated Scotsman says, Gary Johnson. I guess by that he means he's a left libertarian. Now,
yeah, Gary Johnson was kind of all over the place, being honest with you.
Do you have anything to add? Do you think we've demonstrated sufficiently that the political compass test really is basically...
Are you saying that if somebody didn't know,
they're going to end up...
They're going to end up being on the... labeling themselves a left libertarian because of the way the questions are framed? The questions
are all framed... are not, by and large, framed in a way that everyone's going to end up thinking they're a left libertarian.
Does anybody know out there who devised this shit show
of a test? And would you care to devise a new one? All that and more.
All that and more.
And if you did, what questions would you put in it?
Stay tuned. We may... Our next show may cover... We're thinking of covering the Soviet... As you know, this month, August the 20th, was the 50th anniversary of the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia
in 1968.
Which you might not know by all the media coverage that it's not getting. So yeah, and we're going to bring that up on possibly the next podcast or the next. So if anybody's got any ideas about that you wanted us to discuss, and we're going to try and get some very good guests for you.
Yeah,
on
very,
that one.
very good guests. We might even have 2. How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
Anyway,
if
until next
shit
time,
together.
Don't take this libertarian compass test because it's bullshit. Ta-ta.